Nscaler454 here. Welcome back to the channel. I am still debating if I want to keep the foam pavement the way it is, or do I try modifying it and getting it a little bit brighter or making it look a little bit more to the way I wanted it in my mind. But every time I come down here, I think it doesn't look that bad. It's lighter than you may think. It's nowhere close to black. And I really do like a lot of the details that are showing up the way it is right now. There's also a lot of different kinds of colorations in there, and I do like that. I could go ahead and try taking the paint layer off using some alcohol or whatever, and then going over it with some lighter colors. However, that tape line that's in there, I can't get rid of that. So the only way to properly fix it is to completely remove it and redo it all together. And I really, really don't want to do that. I've even gone ahead and placed the buildings down just to see the contrast. And once again, I don't think that looks that bad. Especially with the dark building right there. I think that looks fine. Maybe I can go in here and take some of the paint off and try to redo the with lighter colors, especially to get rid of some of that bluish tinge. But overall, I feel like that looks pretty good. But to avoid that decision, we can focus our attention over on this side, which has to be done anyways, but it also gives me a second opportunity to make some pavement out of foam. Let's see how it goes. Stay tuned. I quickly realized that to get the height of the door on my box car to be level with the height of the dock on the Walthers kit, that I need this surface to be 1/4 inch taller than my base foam layer right here. That's a lot. And what happens is that foam is now higher than my rail ties, and I don't like that. So I'm going to compromise a little bit. I'm going to apply a 1/16 of an inch cardboard piece under here. And then I'm going to put on my 1/8 inch foam layer, and that will be flush with my rail ties, and it will look pretty good with my dock over there. Then I'm going to have to figure out how to blend the height of this with my plaster road over there, not to mention the color and all that stuff. You can also see the orientation. The road was supposed to go up here before, but is now going to go this way. So I got to figure all that out. And this is going to be a little tricky to do. I have this pretty much the way I want it. You can see the 1/16 inch cardboard that I have here. Brings it up a little bit. And then the 1/8 inch foam. And that gets me, let's see if you can see that, right where I need to be in terms of how it sits against the rail ties. You can also see not too bad on how the boxcar sits against the dock right there. So I like that. We'll glue it down, let it dry, and then I'll figure out how to blend in the road. I've taped everything off and marked out my roads. I'm using this 1/16 of an inch foam tape, and I had to stack that to get the height that I want. So we'll throw in some plaster, and then we'll see how much blending we'll have to do after that. We're doing 2 parts plaster of Paris. And 1 part sanded grout. We'll put on our water that I've put in black paint. And we'll start pouring in our plaster. This might be a lot darker than I expected. Oh well. All right, let's go pour it. It has taken 4 or 5 days for the plaster to dry. A lot of that is because of how thick it is. Up in this area right here, it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, so naturally it's going to take a little bit longer. What was interesting is while it was drying, it remained that very dark gray. And I was getting a little bit worried that maybe it was too dark, but it eventually came to this brighter color, which is a lot lighter than I expected. So anyways, I'm just going to sand this down and get rid of some of these little marks in it, and then we can go ahead and paint it. I had to do a little bit of patchwork right there because of some holes and some low spots. And these are the areas I'm going to paint first, and I'm going to put the paint on a little bit thick because I want those to be dark and to look like some road work was done. And then I'm going to use more of a wash to layer up on the road. Of course, blending over here is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And then we're going to use some thicker paint and do the foam. I have bought some new paints. This is a matte acrylic white. This is a pure black, so there shouldn't be any blue in it. I have a gray. That's a little bit lighter. That's going to be more of a top coat. And then I'm probably going to have to use some of this dolphin gray to blend in with this little bit of blue right there. And my goal is to blend here, and then by the time I get over to this spot right here, it's going to be much more just gray. So we'll see how this goes. Use a little bit of water over here. That is bringing out a lot of blue. A lot of blue. You can see the color that I'm using. It's pretty light. Now we're going to use our sponge and we're going to go over this. Cracks. I'm going to really try to get in there. So I decided to remove all the paint because once again, it just looked too bluish to me. I don't think you can see that, but trust me, it was definitely bluish and I didn't really like it. And I think that the white is what's causing the bluish, not so much the black. I've done a test before and it came out gray, and I must have used a combination of the gray and the black, and I got the shade that I want. So that's the route we're going to go now, and hopefully I can get it to work the way I want it to. So that's our color with the gray and the black mixed in. Now that looks a lot better. It's definitely gray, which suggests that the white is what's bringing out that blue, so we'll avoid that as much as we can. I think I'm going to go over some of the cracks right here with this Vallejo wash just to bring out the depth in them. It actually looks really good on camera, but in real life, it looks a little filled up with paint and a little hazy, so I think that'll be good. But I have to be really careful because the wash will want to wick around the paint and the foam underneath and stuff, so I got to try to be precise and, be strategic with it. I can't just go with this whole area, otherwise you'll potentially see that later on. I also have to blend this all together. Ooh, that's going to be a challenge. It might take me a few coats of something or other. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I will work something up to make that happen. Once that's all done, we will go over this whole thing again with a brighter coat. You can see I'm using a fine tip brush. So I want this to be somewhat strategically placed, I guess. I just found that if you add some water to the area first, Not too much because you don't want to wipe off the paint. But now you go back in with your black and it will follow the cracks a lot better, much more naturally. You can see there's a little bit of staining around the cracks, which I expected. Not too bad though. We should be able to cover that up. I can also see I went over the whole road with a wash, and that has brightened it up and blended pretty good, so I'm happy about that. So now we're going to go over this whole section with this Craft Smart Gray, and that is going to completely change the appearance of this and give us that texture and realism that we're looking for. Using a sponge, and we're going to gently tap it on. You can see how that gray top coat has completely changed the appearance of the surface. It has really highlighted these cracks. I think those look great. Though it is a little bit brighter than I was expecting it. Maybe I should have added a dab of black to the paint, but you got to be careful because it can really overpower the gray. So I think I'm going to go over it with this NATO black and an airbrush, really thin down, and maybe that will just change, just darken things up just a little bit. That made a difference 100%. Yeah, that looks way better. I also put in some tire tracks right there to simulate where the trucks go through. It's not heavy traffic, but it's enough that it would have a little bit of markings on there. I also think that the blending in between here and here isn't too bad. I think that's okay, so we can move on from here. So I realized I made a bit of a mistake. I should have taken this foam to butt up against the track just like I did over here. The original plan was to have a loading dock to come all the way down the side to here, but I decided to cut that in half about here. And this section right here would be for forklifts to pull big heavy loads off our flatbed car, and all was great. The original idea was to fill this channel with ballast, but the problem comes because forklifts need to get really close to our flatbed to take the loads off, and you can't have them driving into gravel or ballast or whatever. So I've decided I'm going to cut a strip of foam, and I'm going to paint that a concrete color, mainly because I don't want to try matching it to pavement, and I also don't want that, big line to show up just like it does here. So I think a concrete color will be our best solution. we got some ballasting done. We completed our plaster road. We completed our foam pavement parking lot. Now, I've been asked if I would do foam for pavement again, and since I just did a direct comparison, I would definitely do foam. I think that is the better choice, in my preference at least. I think there's some pretty significant advantages. Number one, it is a lot less messy. Number two, the little cracks and deviations and whatever divots you want to put into it, you can really see those a lot better in foam. It's a lot more realistic versus just drawing them on your plaster, though you will get some interesting little things here and there. I think it's a little bit easier to work with. If you make a mistake, like say you got your base layer mistake, you didn't like it, you can remove it and just redo it. Whereas with plaster, it kind of soaks in and you're kind of stuck with it. Just do not put tape on your foam. That will wreck it. You can see I put the smallest layer here and it wanted to pull it up. So don't put tape on there. I made that mistake before. Don't do it. Biggest drawback is probably the lines. Like when you butt two pieces of foam together, you can probably cover it up with a thicker amount of paint or hide it here and there, but inevitably there's a good chance you're going to see that line. Another thing that I would say is a positive is if you're putting buildings on top of it, it lays perfectly flat. The chances of getting plaster to be completely level without any kind of high or low spots, not very likely. You're probably going to have to do some significant sanding, and once again, very messy, time consuming. My vote is for foam. I did manage to design and 3D print and paint and weather this loading dock. It's an all-metal design, so that's why it's got the rustic look to it, and I think it looks pretty darn good. You can see that it sits level with, come on, focus, buddy, focus, there we go. You can see that it sits level with the flatbed car, and I think that looks cool. If we pull it away, you can see the coupler goes into that little slot right there, and it just bumps up against the bump stops, and then away you go. So I really like it. I might put this on the website as a digital file. I really don't want to have to print these over and over because all those little holes, it is quite challenging to make sure all the resin is out of it. So I don't want to do that every time. So a digital file is likely going to be the case. I put the area right here so that the forklifts can, drive up to it and pull things off. What do you think about that concrete? I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So that section looks pretty darn good. And I really like the rusty colors I've put into the turnouts right here. I think those look awesome. Did another one right in here. So yeah, very excited about that. Did I make a decision on the pavement here in the color? No, not really, but I think I'm just going to keep it. I don't hate it. So, I do think this probably looks a little bit better, and it looks a little older, but there's just some features about this that I really like, so I'm probably going to keep it. And yeah, now that this is all done, this section is basically ready for scenery. Ooh, looking forward to that. So if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching.